Hello, today is Friday, September 25th, 2015, and I am your host, Sue Brown, and welcome to info2rail, your freight train to modern media. How y'all doing today? I want to welcome you to a great show today, and we definitely have a great show in store for you. We're very fortunate today to have psychic Kim Babcock with us today. I think that is just going to be an absolute phenomenal interview. Usually I do a little glimpse into the missing person files, but today I would like to dedicate this show to a woman who grew up with me from a very young age. We were together often in front of the TV all night long, all summer long, night after night, watching horror movies, laughing, having the time of our young lives. Then one day, March 23rd, 2014, my beautiful friend Heather Adam Gerber got the devastating news that she had cancer. She was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And if you knew this girl, she has the most beautiful faith in God, and she always smiles and she's always upbeat. And, no matter whoever wronged her or said anything bad, she was always kind and loving back. She is somebody who really knows her spirituality in God. And throughout this time, she has had a lot of ups and downs with this leukemia. And through it all, she still smiles and she still shines through. I have good news for you guys. On September 22nd, 2015, which was just this past Tuesday, Heather got 3.46 million stem cells from her sister Lynn. And this looks like it will be the start of Heather's whole new life, cancer-free, hopefully, with a brand new life starting out, as her mother stated, from a newborn baby. And, I wanted to share this story with you guys because she is such an amazing person. And I think that her strength and her walk with God has helped so much in her fight with this. And I'll tell you, she has an amazing family. Her mom and dad are just amazing people, and I've known them as well since I was young. I didn't get the chance to know them as well as I wanted to because Heather was at my house more than I was at hers. But they're just amazing people. And when something like this happens that close to home, you see the amazing strength and love of your family and friends. And Heather has had great, great moral support through all of this. To Heather's family and friends who have walked with her through her journey, our prayers here at info2rail, they go out to you and all the love and support that has helped this beautiful woman come this far. And I want to say to our Creator, God Almighty, thank you for this chance in getting her as far as you have in this battle. And please bless these stem cells from Lynn, her sister, and allow Heather a brand new start in life, God, because she deserves it. She has always been faithful and loyal to you. And I want to send that prayer out in Jesus' name. Amen. And God is good, and I have all the faith in the world that God is going to pick her up now with these new stem cells, and He is going to give her a whole new life and a whole new 40-plus years left on this planet. All right, we're going to take a short break right now, and when we return, we will have our psychic, Kim Babcock, with us. Stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back with Kim Babcock. Psychic medium Kim Babcock co-owns a small metaphysical shop called Serenity Mind, Body, Spirit, LLC. This is where she practices her psychic medium readings and level 2 Reiki. She recently joined the ChannelingEric.com crew to provide CE readings. Hello, Kim, and thank you so much for being on info2rail with us.
Hi there. Absolutely. My pleasure.
Can you start out by telling our listeners what you do and how you came to do this?
Sure. Well, I'm a psychic medium. I also am a Reiki practitioner. Before I started doing all of this, I achieved a degree in physical therapy and healthcare management. So I quickly outgrew that lifestyle and that physical side of myself and needed more fulfillment on the spiritual side. So I just began basically listening to what was happening around me, listening to what I was feeling and seeing and picking up on. And that's when I kind of started to realize something bigger than myself was happening, something bigger than what I understood was happening. And eventually I came to figure out that I'm able to communicate with those in spirit and pass along messages from the other side. So I just basically began reading anything I could get my hands on about quantum physics and metaphysics and really tried to understand as much as I could about what was happening. Now I've come to the simple realization that it's based on my connection with God that this is happening.
That is absolutely amazing. As I was chatting with you a little bit before we went on the air, you really captured my interest in a way. Can you explain to us what you had told me recently? It just seems like in my life I'm losing one person after the other, and for a lot of us who are going through the same thing, it's hard for us to wrap our minds around and our hearts around why this is happening. Can you share with us what you had told me?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, I think there's just a wider awareness right now of the life process and death and dying process. People are becoming more aware of it, more in tune with it, as they watch, their loved ones go through certain illnesses and pass away. But, I think, part of our conversation was about it seems like there are more and more accidental overdoses and suicides and different kind of deaths that way. But I think part of that is because just from what I understand in the way that I work with spirit, I think part of that is linked to your destiny is already written before you even incarnate, before you choose, to incarnate and breathe your first breath of life. It's already written that this is your entrance and this is your exit. And it's something you've already agreed upon. So even though it seems like, man, it's because there's so much more access to substance and substance abuse, I really think it's more related to the time period that we're in and people's choosing to incarnate in this time period and choosing that be their exit point.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I've never heard that before from anybody, and it just makes so much sense to me. You had said that this is kind of agreed upon with these people's souls, and it kind of puts a peace. It brings about, for me, a peace. It just seems, what seems crazy to me is, I'm 44 years old, and people my age, my whole generation just seems to be passing quick. And that's just,
Right.
it's crazy.
Right. It does. And like I said, it's right now, I think there's just the shift happening where people are giving more awareness, more conscious awareness to the life process and the death and dying process. And people want to know more. So they pay more attention to what's happening to the folks around them and their loved ones. And, some, depending on, your spiritual state, it can impact you deeply in ways to move you to become more spiritual, or sometimes it unfortunately can shut you down on the human sense where you feel like you can't move forward and you're stuck in that grief. But, regardless, I think it's mainly due to just people are more aware. People are waking up and being, a little more aware and mindful of the life process in itself.
I have a family that just lost their mom, and she was like a second mom to me as well. I grew up with that family. And, for my one friend, her mom's passing is peaceful, as was my dad's for me. But for a couple of her sisters, they struggle daily, and it's a lot of just constant crying and just they can't seem to wrap their head around it or to accept it. It's a constant grieving that they just can't seem to get. Do you have any, words for them to maybe help them a little bit in their grieving process?
Well, I think when people get stuck in the grieving process and can't move forward, there's a few things that you need to consider, that everybody needs to consider. First and foremost, I would encourage people to consider self-compassion. It's okay to grieve and to not be able to move forward because it's a part of your process. You and yourself, you have to process those emotions, and you can't force yourself to get over it quickly and move on. You truly have to be compassionate with yourself and patient with yourself through that process. But also, in the same aspect, sometimes what I see with my clients when they lose loved ones and they get stuck in that grief is it's because they become attached to emotions that are attached to certain events. So, the attachment to that emotion, they keep recycling and rehashing certain things in their mind that continues to bring up, emotions that they can't move past or move through. So sometimes it's just emotional attachment to certain situations or ideas. Sometimes people will, after losing a loved one, they will take on self-blame. I should have done this a little more. I should have communicated what I really thought and felt. And, then they kind of start to carry that self-blame, which really isn't their burden to carry. So I think it's due, when people get stuck, it's mostly due, I think, to that emotional attachment to certain things. And once you can detach from that and kind of release from those attachments, you'll begin to move forward and heal. And as will your loved ones on the other side, because as you continue to feel heavy in your grief, they're going to continue to work to support you through it from the other side until you become lighter and you're able to kind of move away from that and move forward. Then they'll be able to do the same.
Some of us, like for me, I have certain times in my life when things are going on and it seems like my dad tries to contact me more in those times than other times. Why is that?
I think they know us better than we know us. They have access to higher insight, and they know when we need to feel that comfort, when we need to feel that support. Sometimes it's just a lift bump. They step through to say hi and make you smile. Other times they see where you need extra support and they'll step in just as a reminder to let you know that they're there. Mostly because they want you to know. I mean, they're just as desperate to communicate with us as we are to hear from them. So it's important for them to get across to their physical loved ones that they haven't gone anywhere. They're still here. They're just in a different form. So I think, maintaining that relationship is what's most important to them. So they definitely will stop by and let their loved ones know in different ways that they're still there.
I know that for me, if I'm going through something where I'm really not sure what to do next or, what the next step is in my life or what path to take is when my dad shows up. I don't get I don't feel like I'm guided in either direction. I was sitting here one night chatting with a friend of mine and I have a moon on my wall and it lights up in corridors. And you have to push the button on a remote and it comes on one quarter at a time. Well, I was talking about my dad with her and all of a sudden that moon lit up full force and nobody had the remote. It was across a room. I was the only one in my room. And to me, it was crazy because all I could think of is that it has to be my dad. I mean, I don't know if it was, but that's the only thing came to my mind.
Absolutely. And you have to believe that because, electronics are one of the easiest ways for them to manipulate your surroundings to let you know that they're there because they work off of that energy. And again, you have to listen to your heart. If some car pulls in front of you with a license plate that, speaks to your heart, and you say, oh, I know that's my dad. It's not just your mind saying, I know that's my dad. That's your dad coming into your mind and saying, I'm here. So, they have that ability of that telepathic communication, mentally and to speak to your heart as well. So when you say, I don't know how, but I just know it was my dad. Absolutely don't second guess that.
It's crazy. I had another psychic on my show not too long ago, and right in the middle of the reading, she kind of, described my dad and things about my dad that she couldn't possibly know. And wow, because sometimes when our loved ones pass, we want to believe that they're here, but when those kind of crazy signs happen, we try to dismiss them like, they couldn't have possibly been them. But, she assured me that he was there and, he had something to say, and my dad was that way. He would just say it. Didn't matter if you liked it or not, he was going to say it. But, just with certain things going on in my life lately, he just seems more active around me. I was sitting here and across my computer, my dad always, he never went by his real name on the computer. He never even typed it in. My dad's name was Charlie Brown, and that's what he used on the computer. He never used his real name, which was William C. Brown. Well, I sat here, and all of a sudden, I went to go check my email, and it flashed across my computer, William C. Brown logging out. And I just freaked.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, whoa, what is that? And why is that on my computer? My dad's not even, his old computer isn't even hooked to my computer. And at the same time, my friend who had just lost her mom was really sick and really getting to that point where she was ready to pass. And she went to log into her Facebook, and it popped up on her Facebook and said, you're trying to log in as William C. Brown, and you can't. And she called me, and she said, she didn't know my dad's real name. She just knew that they called him Charlie Brown. And she asked me if I knew anybody with that name. I said, that's my dad. And she said, well, I couldn't log into my Facebook because it kept telling me I was trying to log in under that name, and I don't even know that name.
That's very fascinating. That's definitely spirit letting you know that they're there. That reminds me of a story when back before I had started doing readings and realizing that I could communicate with the other side. My grandfather passed away, and he was still in the home, and we were all kind of gathered around the kitchen table. Excuse me, as hospice came in and did their thing. And his own personal cell phone rang, and his name was Larry Oxley. And when his cell phone rang, his name came up on his own cell phone, and we thought, well, how in the world can he be calling himself? He had just passed, and so we knew it was him. And then the TV came on, and so I walked over and shut it off, and then it came back on. And then I shut it back off in the kitchen. So just little things like that. Electronics are definitely one of Spirit's favorite things to play with, to let you know that they're there.
Where I live, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to people around me, but we never had the problem that we're having lately with, seems like we're having a power surge every day, and 2 or 3 a day. And I can't imagine everybody around me having the same problem. But in this house, my dad died in this house. And in this house, at least once a day, we have a power surge where our electric goes out just quick. It shuts everything off and everything comes right back on. And I'm kind of wondering if that's not him.
I wouldn't doubt it. And like I said, listen to your heart when you feel that. And if you feel that tug that you think it's your dad instead of, your aunt or your grandmother, you have to know that your heart is speaking to you in a way to think that it's him for a reason. So, and a lot of times when you continually think about your loved ones who are gone, and you're connected to them, that energy in itself will definitely make electronics sometimes go haywire. So it's definitely very common.
Well, this morning I said, okay, I'm getting ready to do my show, and I kind of sometimes chat with my dad while I'm getting my stuff ready. And I'm like,
Sure.
okay, Dad, here's, getting ready to do another show and wish me luck. And the lights went, it did that again. It power surged. And I'm like, this is not possible that the whole town just did this at that exact moment. So this stuff happens to me at crazy times. And, I've just had so many things lately in my life that, I keep saying, what path do I take? And I keep going to God. What path do I take, God? And I'm not getting any clear answers, but I'm getting a lot more activity. So, I just wish my dad would say, take this path and shut up, like he would have.
They can do that. Sometimes they can guide you down a certain path, but also they see that you have to make your decisions because they can't interact with free will. They can't change your free will, so they can always guide you. Because I've had many people make comments like that. Why can't they just tell me what to do? And well, it's kind of against the rules for them to come forward and say you have to do this because now they're interfering with free will, and now they can't live your journey for you. So they can certainly guide you and support you along the way. But as far as I understand spirit, they can't necessarily say you have to do this versus that. Because there's that free will thing is a huge variable.
With what you've learned in your life and the way you can communicate, spiritually the way you do, can anybody learn to do this, or is this something that you believe that certain people are chose to do?
I think it's an ability that everybody has. I think not everybody is capable of listening to it and tuning into it. There's people in my life that I see, man, the ability is there. And they're picking up on it, and they're seeing, and they're sensing. But sometimes they kind of back down out of fear that they're scared of this or that. And you cannot acknowledge fear when you do this. Fear kind of makes the process become unorganic. And also, when people tune into this, I think honestly it's a faith thing. You have to have faith in what's happening. You have to have faith in yourself, and that there's something there, outside of yourself. There's something more there, because again, if you start questioning the information that comes through, your faith isn't big enough. And I think there's a lot of people that they need to put their hands on something to see it and feel it to believe it. Whereas in this work, you don't get that option sometimes. So, I think everybody has the ability. It's just not, I don't think everybody's capable of finding that spot inside themselves where you actually shut down every part of your physical self to listen to spirit. It's very peaceful. It's very difficult, but very simple.
Is there a way we can teach ourselves to do this?
Absolutely. I think, most importantly, if somebody wants to teach themselves to start hearing from the other side, the first thing you have to achieve is self-love. And as cliche as that sounds, and as common as, we hear that so often, but it's true. You have to be comfortable in who you are first before you can really start to reach outside of yourself. So achieving that self-love and comfort in yourself and peace within yourself is what's important, because the more you're aligned with yourself, the better aligned you are to hear from the other side. So first you have to work on yourself, and then it's going to be a little bit easier to align with spirit and hear from them. And there's different, meditations and things that you can do to kind of help. Because people will say, well, I can't quiet my mind enough. I can't meditate or anything like that because I can't quiet my mind. But really, that's what guided meditations are for. Instead of just sitting there and trying to meditate yourself, try guided meditations, and those will help you achieve that inner peace. And once that peace is able to be sustained throughout the day, no matter what comes and goes your way throughout the day, and you can, sustain that inner peace. Now you're really kind of working your way through and paving the way to be able to hear from spirit.
That makes a lot of sense. For me, it's happening. I mean, I've always been kind of connected in the spirit world in ways. I've been reading tarot cards for a lot of years and kind of revolved a little bit past that. I mean, when it's somebody close to me and they ask me a question, instead of doing a reading, sometimes the answers that they're asking me the questions to are just kind of pop up. You know, they're just kind of there, and I don't even have to do the reading to see what it is that's, right there. So I think I'm getting there with me. For me, I always wanted to somehow be able to help in, finding the missing people. It's a passion of mine. I want to really get more involved with the missing people because, I have 4 girls and a family myself, and I couldn't even imagine 1 second of anybody that I love missing. So for me, it's the passion of trying to at least bring that family answers and closure and finding these people alive or not, but at least they're found.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, I wish I could figure out a way to, that's what I struggle with, is trying to connect to that part of things where I can actually help these families.
Yeah, there's different techniques that people, that I've read about that people can work on to develop. I'm sure you've probably heard of remote viewing or astral travel, and there's times where I've only done remote viewing one time and allowed myself to travel with another guide that I trust and kind of viewed the cemetery and this area that somebody was looking for. But there are psychics and mediums out there that specialize in that and being able to locate and see the surroundings and connect to, the tragic events that brought these people to becoming missing persons. And, those people are highly gifted. That's not something that I specialize in. It's not necessarily something that I do, but I know a few that do, and they're very, very gifted. They work, with the local law enforcement too. So it's a great way to use that gift.
I just think, for me, it's such a passion to me, and I just want so badly to be able to bring closure to somebody. There was a case around me where Kaylee Ann Polton went missing, and she was like 40 minutes away from my house, and I did what I could to try to look and help them find her. And it was, those are the times when you so wish that you at least had some sort of a connection there that you'd be able to help these people. So for me, that was, that's what I love to do. And so I've been trying so hard to somehow connect in that way so that I can help these people. I mean, on every show that I do, all my interviews, I always do a missing person segment at the beginning, at least to try to bring awareness.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, I mean, like I said, I just couldn't imagine one moment of
right.
And these people, what they endure when they're missing somebody in their lives. I can't even imagine the devastation. And
right.
It's gotten so bad in this world where these kids are being abducted and these people are just going missing, and it's crazy. And then you got the other side of it where you got so many people coming forward and saying that, some of it could be alien abduction, and that's why you're not finding these people ever. So there's so many different things to think about.
Right. And I think, again, that kind of goes back to it's no matter what happens on this earth, I truly believe myself, my personal opinion, that God's will happens. It's always happening. It's always happening. So even if children go missing or people go missing and they can't be found, there's a purpose behind it. It's whether it's to bring people together in a community or to get loved ones to communicate again and rely on each other that, didn't communicate before this event. I still feel like there's purpose behind it, and I always feel like people truly underestimate God and God's work and God's power, because people will, look at events like this and say, "Oh, this world's so out of control," but hopefully we're not going to a point to where we say, God's out of control, that this isn't, God wouldn't let this happen, because surely, we can't go there and acknowledge that. I think God is always in control, and we have to fall back on that. We have to realize that no matter what, there's purpose behind it. And one day, when we go back to the other side, we will find out what that purpose is.
I think that is a very peaceful thing, and at least for me, like I said before, it brings a peace to me, and I absolutely 100% believe in God, and I absolutely believe He knows what He's doing. So that makes a lot of sense, that this is just what's going to happen to these specific individual people. So for me, that makes a lot of sense. But I also look at it as if it was God's will for me to, whatever way that I can help people in this world, I think that God will bring me to that place where I can help them in the way that He feels that I'm best qualified to do so.
Exactly. And, that reminds me of a message I've been getting. There's a gentleman on the other side that I work with frequently. I work with him as a guide, and this message that he's been telling me this week is, it's a bigger message that he wants, humanity to realize, and that is that surrender to life and surrender to God's will. Because when some people will say, "I've been working so hard to achieve this. I don't understand why I can't achieve it." But sometimes when you're working so hard, you're missing the opportunities right in front of you to achieve it. So his message this week has been surrender to life and surrender to God's will and let it happen, and things will fall into place so much faster. So that kind of, that can be applied in so many aspects of life.
I think for some people it's very frustrating when, I know it is for me sometimes, I have a very high faith in God, and a very, I think it's a very close relationship with God. But sometimes, when you're reaching out for those answers and you're praying and you're doing all this, and it's so quiet, and you're not getting anything at all from God. And it's like, are you up there? Do you hear me? And I have a lot of people that I chat with that have the same thing. I go to God and I give it to God and I trust God, but I'm not, it's so silent, and I'm not getting any kind of peace or answers or anything. And, sometimes I wonder why God is so silent sometimes when we're so in need.
Well, my opinion on that is quite the opposite. I don't think God is silent. I think when we have people like that to say, I beg and plead for anything, and he never gives me anything, or, I think that's when are you asking out of circumstantial, is your faith becoming circumstantial? Like, I'm going to believe, my faith is going to get stronger when you show me or when you answer. So think about that, and to all the listeners, keep that in mind, that you have to truly let go of any and every expectation when you ask. You truly do, because I feel like, when people ask and they have expectations, okay, I'm waiting. Now you're defeating your own purpose. You're defeating the purpose of asking in faith. So that's a conversation I have frequently with people too, is look around you, and it depends on where your focus is. When people say, well, he's so silent, why is he so silent? But it really depends on where your focus is, if he's silent or loud, and what you choose to see as blessings and as answers and guidance. So very well could be right in front of you, but you have to choose to see it and, release any and all expectations when you ask and when you connect. Because,
Well,
expectations can be a form of disappointment
for
when
a
you set
lot
those.
for a lot of us, I think it's, for me anyway, I can't speak for everybody, but for the people that I chat with about this subject, for a lot of us, it is, knowing how to hear from God, or, some of us, we don't even know when God is tapping us on the shoulder and saying, this is the right way, my child, or whatever. We're not aware of how to hear from God. So, a lot of times I'm thinking I'm hearing from God loud and clear, and I'm just not getting it because I don't know how to hear from Him or how to listen.
Sure, I think that's a great question. A lady asked me the same question the other day, and my answer to that is I can't tell you how to hear God. I can't tell you how to connect, but what I can tell you is it's different for everybody. For me, if it, I'm thinking about something or worrying about something, um, I might be given something that I can see, or I might just, things can be completely haywire, but I still have a sense of calm inside me. That's how I know he's coming to me and saying it'll be okay. Um, so I think it can be in many different ways, and I think it's specific to each individual and how you're going to perceive the most. So, listen to your heart, listen to your intuition. If you say, man, I was going to go to that party that my gut just told me not to, and thank God I didn't, because look what happened. God spoke through your gut. That's, so different ways like that. I don't think it's always going to be, the clouds parting and, oh my gosh, this beautiful thing happened. It's a little more real and a little more practical for each individual to perceive. So I think sometimes it's right in front of us. We're expecting something different, so we miss it.
That makes a lot of sense. 'Cause I have a thing, I've talked about it on my show before. And for me, it's like a deja vu moment where I've already lived this, but my mind races to the end of the situation, and it's usually a bad outcome. I can see the whole entire situation from the moment that the first word was spoken that I recognize. I can see it all the way to the end, and it's like, this is bad, and I have to change it right now. So, whatever's going on at that moment, I will even say it out loud. I have to change the course of this event right now, or it's going to be bad. And I will literally get up and do something different that I would not have normally done at that time. So I think that that's one of the gifts I got from God in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's pretty powerful because, that kind of leads us to thinking about the concept. Um, People ask, do you believe in reincarnation? Yes, I do. Um, but I also, reincarnation versus constant simultaneous incarnation. I think that's where we run into those deja vu experiences. Is I truly believe that there are other forms of your energy living out incarnations simultaneously in other areas of the world. So, for example, when you're saying you're in a situation and something's happening and the outcome is bad, that's because you've already lived through it, or you've already experienced it, or yourself is already currently experiencing it on some other part of the earth or the planet. Um, and that outcome because you're connected to your higher self or your intuition. So it happened a certain way in a different lifetime in another consciousness. And so now this consciousness knows this is another chance to change it. So that's when you feel like you have to stand up and make those decisions. I have to change this right now. So I think that's a very awesome thing to pick up on, a very fantastic perception, because I believe that we are living our incarnations simultaneously. It's just a matter of where is your focus? Where's your conscious awareness? Where's your consciousness focus?
I used to ignore these when I was younger. I used to be like, I've lived this before. This is kind of cool. And I would just play, let it play to the end. And it always ended up in a big argument that I already saw that was going to happen, or, bad words said, or somebody getting hurt. And I learned throughout the years, Sue, you're given this for a reason. You've got to stop this. And so little by little, I tried it out, and I'm like, okay, last time I let this play out, it ended badly, just like I see. So let's change the course of events at this exact moment and just go in a different direction. And ever since then, that's what I do. And, it confuses a lot of people. I can tell you that. They're like, "Oh,
Sure.
everything's fine. Why are you changing what's going on? And how do you explain to somebody? Because I already saw it and it's not good."
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome to have that ability and to have that perspective. That's a gift, absolutely.
Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's scary. I mean, I woke up the day that my grandfather died, and I said to my mom, "My grandpa's going to die today," and it was her dad, and nobody even knew he was sick. So that was not.
Wow.
I don't know how I knew, but I astral projected. All of a sudden, I laid down and went back to sleep after she had gone to work, and all of a sudden, I was in his living room and I watched him pass. And I was like 18 years old, and that was the first time, death hit home that close for me. So that was like the most devastating thing at that point in time that I'd ever gone through in my life. And
Wow.
I think that that was given to me, that ability to be able to see that moment so that when it was my dad's time and eventually it's my mom's time, that I could handle it the way as well as I did when it was my dad's time.
Sure. And also the possibility of, having that foresight to help others prepare. That's very cool.
It's very hard for me. I have that outlook on how peaceful it is when somebody passes when they're sick. Um, Another moment to watch my dad suffer was I was begging God, just take him home, and I kept saying to my dad, just go home. And so many people say, don't you miss your dad? Doesn't it devastate you every moment that your dad is gone? No, it doesn't, because to watch him suffer was more devastating than to let him go.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear you say that. It's that's a to be able to say that, I think, is a higher spiritual development, because so many people, again, there's that attachment thing again where they're attached to that person and the role that they played in their life. So when they're gone and they're not there anymore, there's a sense of a void that they are attached to. But when you can release them and their soul as they pass and transition, you don't suffer as much, and you don't get stuck as much in that grief, because you know that they're in a better place, and you know that there's another existence. And like you said, that physical devastation is much harder to watch them go through, and knowing that the struggle is over brings so much more peace to so many people.
I think that if I didn't believe that my dad was still here, I believe in my experience that we're energy, and our energy just happens to be in the form of physical form on Earth. But I believe that when we pass, our energy just changes form, and we never really leave the people we love. And I think if I didn't have that peace with God and that belief, that it would have been so much harder. But I don't believe that I lost my dad. I believe that I lost his body, but I don't believe that I lost him. And I can still talk to him the same way I always did, and I can still feel him just like he's here.
Exactly. That's a wonderful statement, that you don't believe that you lost your dad, because through my readings, so many people say that because they want their loved ones to realize that I haven't gone anywhere. You haven't lost me. And even when it is father figures that come through, they'll say things, I'm still your dad. I'm still here to help. I'm still here to give guidance. It's just a different way now. So, believing in that afterlife is definitely something that helps people stay connected and maintain that relationship.
I wish that, that's something that, I mean, I'm 44 years old, but I don't consider myself too old to, be able to do the things that, to help other people, because I think that I was It's my purpose from God to help whoever I can on this earth. And that's something I would really love to figure out, how to be able to help people, realize these things, that when they lose a loved one, they haven't really lost them. And I feel like that's something that God puts on my heart to help people, but I kind of struggle in the way of how to do that. What steps to take to get in the position where I can help people like that.
Sure. I think that's just a matter of, I think everybody feels drawn in some way to want to help people, and sometimes they don't know how. In this case, if you want to help people realize that there's more after this, that they haven't lost their loved ones, it's just a matter of asking your heart what feels most important to you. For me, it was, to help people. I wanted to help. I basically saw myself as a bridge, and I want to be that link for people. I want to, link people in the afterlife and in the physical life. So for me, I kind of found my path just by asking myself, what would I want if I lost somebody so near and dear to me? What would I want? How would I want help from people? And that's what it was. I would want that bridge. And so that's where I just began my focus, and hopefully becoming that bridge for people, linking them to the other side.
For me, I would just like to be able to bring the peace to people, to be able to, help them to realize that they haven't lost someone, that in fact that person is still very much with them, just in a different form. Part of me says go back to school for psychology and help people that way. But, that's where I'm kind of stuck on that bridge, is not knowing how to go forward and doing what it is I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us find ourselves, stuck at those crossroads sometimes like that. And again, that's one of those things that, you have to ask yourself, if I go back to school, is this something that I need to teach people what I want to teach them, or to help people in the way that I want to help them? Or can I do it without going back to school? So there's so many things to consider. There's so many ways to help people. And it's just truly where your heart pulls you. And I feel like, the most important thing in realizing that is asking yourself what you would want, because, then you align with your purpose, I think, a little bit higher when you ask yourself, if I was on the receiving end, what would I want? How would I want this help? And I think that kind of helps you just see both sides of it and align with it.
That's who I am anyways. That's just the person I am. I can put myself in other people's shoes a lot of times and feel what they're going through, and I think about how, I can feel what they're going through. What would I want them to do to help me to feel better? Or, how would I want someone to be there for me? So that's just,
right.
That's who I am anyway. So it's so easy for me to be able to feel other people's pain. But I guess the frustrating part for me is to figure out how to, ease their pain. That's where I'm at in my spiritual journey right now, is trying to figure out how I can help them.
Sure. And sometimes, you have to think about the concept too, that sometimes you're not meant to ease their pain. Sometimes that is something that they have to go through and they have to process to, become a better version of themselves. Because, we all know that we're all here to learn and experience and grow from our experiences. So sometimes, as badly as we want to help people and we want to see them move forward, you have to remember sometimes it's not within your touch to change their journey, to change their path. Sometimes they're meant to go through certain things and feel certain things to help them bring them to a higher form of themselves, of their self.
That makes sense. I understand that. I just think to be a grief counselor, or something like that, at least I can try to bring peace to somebody, because you look around and there's so much sadness and grief today. And if people realized, death is not such a horrible, bad thing. It's just a transformation,
Yeah, I think people are starting to wake up and realize that. I think people are um, starting to shift their focus because they're realizing it's too hard to carry that burden. It's a lower vibration, and to carry that sadness, it's too hard. So people are shifting a little bit and waking up and realizing that death isn't so scary. The death and dying process is actually a rebirth to a new higher form of yourself, a more organic form of your soul makeup. And I think people are starting to shift their focus. They're becoming a little more curious, reading more, and experiencing more and sharing more, and hopefully, ultimately becoming a little more comfortable with the death and dying process, because it truly, I think, is something that should be looked at as, what if death was our friend? What if death was, what if we started to view it as it's a good step? That's the next good thing, because you're going back to where you came from, to where you belong, this place of eternal peace. So I think people are getting there.
I wish I saw that around me, but the more people that I lose around me, the more I'm seeing such, pain and anguish and these people just struggling, and the hard part is, they're not losing one family member right now or one friend right now. It's like 4 or 5 at a time. And that's where this hitting my friends and the people closest to me so hard, because it's happening in such a big number. I mean, they're not losing a friend today and that's it for a while. They're losing maybe an aunt today, an uncle in 2 days, a friend in 3 days, and it's just happening. The last 2 weeks have kind of been absolutely crazy around me.
Yeah, it sounds like, that case in specific has, been, special circumstances in people having, experiencing that a little more frequently. And again, there's always purpose behind it, but absolutely, when you lose that many in that short amount of time, it's definitely going to kind of make you step back and kind of shut down and want to think and, review and process things a little bit more. Absolutely.
It makes me want to do the things that are necessary to do while I'm alive and show the people how much I love them while I'm here to do it. That's what it shows me, that life is short, and while we're in the physical realm of life, I think we should enjoy every second we have.
Right, absolutely, because we humans are definitely creatures of habit, and we get used to our routines and our schedules, and we just think that we're guaranteed tonight and tomorrow, and we're not. Tonight might not come for some of us, and tomorrow might not be there for some of our loved ones, and we just have a way as human nature of assuming that it's going to be there for us. So, it's definitely a huge concept to be able to live in each moment, to be alive and awake in each moment, and be able to communicate and express the way you feel with your loved ones, because you never know when it's your last opportunity to do so.
That's absolutely true, and I think we're all seeing that. With every loss, I think we're all realizing that more and more. Can you tell us a little bit about your metaphysical shop that you co-own?
Sure. It's called Serenity, Mind, Body, and Spirit, located in New Concord, Ohio. And the reason why I opened this place is because I've been doing readings for almost 5 years, and I was meeting people at their homes, at coffee shops, at restaurants, and I just needed that sacredness to this. I needed that sacred spot. I'm not comfortable bringing strangers to my home, and I wasn't always comfortable going to strangers' homes, but I did. So I just started to shift my focus a little bit and just say, I started to put it out there. I'm going to have a shop. I'm going to have a shop. And once you kind of align with that and visualize it, I was, my partner and I were able to manifest it pretty quickly, surprisingly quickly. But, this is a sacred place for me to do my readings and to also do Reiki. This shop is also, provides a lot of spiritual merchandise, all of the incense and the herbs for saging and smudging and the crystals to help raise your vibrations and essential oils and books and those sorts of things. So it's just a little metaphysical shop that's very, very unique to the surroundings. There's nothing around here like this. So we were even a little bit nervous going into this, wondering how the community was going to receive something like this. But it's been very well received, and we're just finding out that, the community, a bigger sense of community as well, not just local, but people are really needing more places like this to be able to come together and talk about spirituality without being, called crazy. So
there's a big thing, this Reiki thing is something that not many people heard about up until, recently. Can you tell us what this Reiki is?
Sure. Reiki itself is a word that it's broken up into two parts, Rei and Ki, and it means universal life. So basically, it's just a light touch all around the body to bring your energy back into balance. So, things like losing a loved one or, different things that you go through in life that can throw your emotions off or throw your energy off is what Reiki is designed for, to help channel divine energy and bring you back into balance, bring you back to a better form of yourself.
Huh. It's popping up big every place. Everywhere I turn, everybody's doing Reiki now. And for a long, for when I first started hearing it, I said, "What is this Reiki?" This sounds very interesting, and I would so much like the opportunity to figure out, what this is and what it's about. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, and I think people are wanting, people are looking for organic wellness. People are kind of starting to turn away from the pharmaceuticals, and they're wanting wellness in a more organic way before they try surgery or before they try the pharmaceuticals. So I think that's why we're seeing it more and more. A lot of our local hospitals here are actually using, a big portion of their space to, basically dedicate just to Reiki and practicing Reiki on hospital patients. It's also been widely used and funded in the military, in the United States military. So it's definitely becoming more accepted universally.
Can you also tell us what the channeling Eric is about?
Sure. I'm glad you asked. Channeling Eric is a whole community in itself. It's, there's a blog, channelingeric.com website as well. And this was started by Eric's mother, Elisa. And basically she lost her son back in 2009, I believe it was. He struggled through life with different things, it's mentioned in both of his books, My Son in the Afterlife, and the second book is called My Life After Death, by Eric Medhus and Elisa. And, both of these books they describe the afterlife and what it's like. The second book, My Life After Death, describes the death and dying process, and it describes it in a way that brings so much peace and comfort. It's so compelling. And it provides so much peace and comfort about death and dying, and it helps to strip away the fear attached to that process. So, the whole Channeling Eric Society, basically, Elisa's been working with a medium, Jamie Butler, for a few years, and she helps connect her with her son, Eric. And Eric comes through in a big way for his blog members, for folks that have read his book, both of his books. And he's starting to work with myself as well, coming through as a guide, and who I was mentioning before when I say there's, guides that I work with spiritually. He comes through for so many of my clients to help steer them, away from suicide, or just to bring them guidance in general. So he is an incredible spiritual being and still very, very active on the earth plane.
That is very amazing. I was reading about it on your website. So
Yeah,
I figured I would ask, and so our listeners could understand what that was all about.
yeah, and he, in both of his books, he describes how in his physical life he really wanted to help people, but based on what he went through, he had bipolar disorder and Tourette's, and people judged him, people stood him up, and he couldn't help people, and be as effective as he wanted to be in helping people. So ultimately, his life ended on October 6th in the form of him taking his own life. So that devastation sent his mom searching for more, searching for a way to sustain that relationship. Elisa herself is a physician, and she was one of those people, a scientific type of person that needed that tangible evidence. So she thought, mediums and psychics and connected with Jamie Butler, and she found that Jamie brought, a true connection with her son forward, and they've worked together for a few years, and all of their sessions they post on the blog, and they post on YouTube as well, so you can watch them. And I will tell you from my own personal experience, they will blow your mind. The books themselves blew my mind about what the afterlife is like. It's also very validating, and a lot of things that we think and we suspect the afterlife to be like, Eric describes it in a way that you can really relate to. So he's definitely somebody who's very candid. He's very playful, and if you read his books or you check out his blog, channelingeric.com, you'll see where his mom posts on there daily, and his Facebook page as well. He makes it, his commitment to interact with you and help you and guide you, because he's so grateful that people take the time to read his story. So it's very incredible. Both books were life-changing for me.
And we can get these books right on channelingeric.com?
I believe so. They're both for sale everywhere. The second book just came out September 1st, called My Life After Death. And that is a book between Elisa and her son, her communicating with her son. Basically, Eric wrote that book from the afterlife. It's subtitled A Memoir from Heaven. And it was something that I read in about 9 hours. I couldn't put it down. It's tear-jerking, and it's very compelling, and it's also incredibly inspiring, and kind of, like I said, it kind of gets you excited about the afterlife. It's definitely something unique to its category.
That's amazing. I would absolutely love to read those books. I'm going to have to look for those, and I'm going to have to get them. I have a lot of books from a lot of my guests. They send me their books, so I have the chance to read, their material. And those are definitely two books I would love to get and read.
Sure. The first book, My Son in the Afterlife, was written with Jamie Butler as a medium. And this book is set up like a kind of like a transcript where you see, the mom's questions, and then the medium connecting with Eric and bringing through Eric's answers. So it's incredible. It's very fascinating, the things that he says about the afterlife and the way that energy works and energy moves, and it's very fascinating.
That is great. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us today. I have learned so much from you in just this hour together.
Oh, good. Absolutely. My pleasure.
You're amazing. And
well, thank you.
What you do is just absolutely amazing. And, I really want to, I know how busy you are, with all that you do. And it just means so much that you took the time to come on with us and share this with us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'm always honored to, spread this message as far as I can. It's my pleasure, and I'm honored. So I thank you so very much for having me.
Can you tell us your website so we can go on and check you out?
Sure. You can find my information, my contact information on my website. It's all one word, and it's kimsdivineconnection.com.
All right. Well, I really, I advise my listeners to go on and check you out. I think you're amazing, and what you're doing is just wonderful. You know how you have an amazing gift, and the fact that you share that with all of us. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
And I would just love to have you back on. You are just amazing.
My pleasure. I would love it. Sounds
All
great.
right. Well, thank you, and you have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow, guys, that was an amazing, absolute amazing interview. And I love to have, guests on. I love all my guests and equally. And I'm just thankful for all of you that come on as my guests and just as thankful for all you listeners. And I love it when, when I can have and bring such an amazing message to my listeners. I love it. Thank you guys so much for being there and listening. It's great. I learn so much from my guests that come on, and it helps me grow as a person. And I'm kind of hoping to bring that to all my listeners out there as well. And hopefully that, these messages from these people and their experiences and what they do, I'm hoping that it, helps you all grow. And, it's amazing. Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for today. We post all our shows on YouTube. And if you want to know more about our guests and upcoming shows, just visit our info2rail website. Just Google info2rail, info number 2 rail. And we have a Google Sites page on there. And you can actually either go from there straight to the YouTube page, or if you Google it, it comes up our YouTube as well. I want to thank you guys again from the bottom of my heart, each and every one of you, the guests and the listeners, for joining us here at info2rail, because if it wasn't for the guests and the listeners, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be sitting here talking to all of you. And I love it. This is my passion, and it's all of you that have helped this dream come true for me. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We hope to see you here each and every week. We try every week to bring you guys a new guest. There are some weeks that things just don't go as planned, and just want to thank you for your patience on the weeks that we don't have a guest on here. But some weeks we have 2 guests, so we try to make up for it. But thank you so much, and we hope to see you here each and every week. I've noticed we have, doubled our subscribers on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. And you know what? If there's a subject that you guys would like to like me to have a guest on that you'd like to hear about, that I haven't covered, or there's somebody that you think would be a great guest on our show, feel free to drop a line and let us know. You can do that at info2rail@gmail.com. Just give us a shout and say, this would be a great guest for your show, or I'd like to hear this, have a guest, you to have a guest on with this subject, and we'll do our very best to do so. May God bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you in these uncertain times. We'll see you soon.